Will the Committee on Budget please come to order? It is Friday, November 8, 2024, at 10:14 a.m. I would like to welcome Councilmember Kia Aina, as well as appoint Councilmember Dos Santos Tam to the Committee on Budget, as well as welcome Councilmember Tupola. We do not have any members participating remotely by video conference. Pursuant to Section 92-3.7 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes, this meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting by interactive conference technology with the following procedures in effect for the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda via two ways, remotely and in person in the council chamber. Remote and in-person oral testimony will be allowed when the agenda item will be taken up. Before testifying, each person shall state their name, and each speaker may not have anyone else read their statement and is limited to a 1-minute presentation on each item. I would also like to welcome Council Chair Waters. All persons who have registered to testify remotely by video conference will be called upon first. When your name is called, please monitor your screen and activate your audio feed when prompted. I will then give persons who have not registered an opportunity to offer testimony. Please utilize raise hand feature on Zoom to be called upon. For those joining us by telephone only, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak. I will then identify you by your last 3 digits of your phone number. When your number is called, please press *6 to unmute yourself when prompted, and I will repeat that indication when the time comes. Some friendly reminders and tips. Please video conference from a quiet location if possible. If you're also watching the proceedings on Olelo, please conclude your remarks promptly. Once all the testifiers have testified, I will proceed to in-person testimony in the council chamber. Persons who have not registered will be given an opportunity to speak following the oral testimonies of the registered speakers. For those council members participating from outside of the council chamber, in accordance with HRS Section 92-3.7, the meeting will automatically recess if we lose audio-visual contact with you, and we will not be able to reconvene until we re-establish contact. Therefore, please announce beforehand if you will be voluntarily signing out of the meeting. Written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. And as a courtesy, please silence or turn off all cell phones. Members, our one and only item for today is agenda item number 1, and it is for discussion only. It is Bill 46, 2024, CD1, which addresses the taxation of vacant residential properties in the city and county of Honolulu. First off, I would like to thank everyone who's made it here and provided input over the past few months as it went through its first committee, the Committee of Housing, Sustainability, and Health, and went through its public hearing. It is now in its first, well, I wouldn't say first hearing its first of hearing with the Committee on Budget before any action is taken. So I would like to allow for this discussion since the bill has gone through its reiterations. As the co-introducer of this bill, I would like to state my intention and purpose is to ensure that we increase our housing availability for those in our county, and I want to ensure that we keep that purpose in mind. I do want to recognize that I have my co-introducer. I would like to also welcome Chair Waters to the chamber and meeting as well. Before we move on with the meeting, would you like to provide any words?
Sure, thank you so much. As you pointed out, the purpose of the bill is to address the city's housing supply challenges. An empty homes tax could help ease Honolulu's housing problems by encouraging existing owners to rent or sell vacant housing stock for use as homes for local residents. Also increasing the city's supply of homes to better meet the demand and reduce market pressures that cause high and unaffordable housing prices, and also raising funds for affordable housing and homeless solutions. So thank you very much for having this hearing, Chair Cordero. I look forward to a lively discussion today.
Thank you. First off, before I move forward, I do have to note that both Councilmember Toba as well as Committee Vice Chair Wire are excused from the meeting. With that, members, I would like to first move on to remote testifiers. With us, we do have, we will continue, we would start with remote testimony first. When I call your name or the last 3 digits of your phone number, please follow the prompts. If it is a phone number, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak, and please press *6 to unmute yourself. With that, okay, let me see who's remote. We do have first Kelly Lee remote, as well as Jim Tree remote. So we'll go with Kelly Lee first.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Kelly Lee, representing OSTRA. We represent thousands of property owners, managers, and others that work in the mid and short-term rental industry on Oahu. We support CD1 to avoid an unfair tax burden on Oahu's residents and consideration of combining permitted occupancy. We really appreciate your hard work to support our island's housing needs. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Members, any questions? Mahalo, Ms. Lee. Thank you very much for participating. Next on line, we have Jim Tree, followed by Roberta Morgan.
Hello, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. My parents were living in Hawaii in 1941. My dad worked at Pearl Harbor at the time it was bombed, so we have a long history in Hawaii. I'm alumni of BYU Hawaii. I have a lot of compassion for the housing crisis that's going on, and I support an empty homes tax, but I do not support a second home tax. This bill would not only create an empty homes tax, but would create a second home tax. Homes that are completely occupied, 365 days a year. If the owner that stayed in those homes wasn't the principal residence of that owner, and you can only have one principal residence, you would be taxed. There are 109,000 cities and towns in the United States. 4 have empty homes tax, 0 have second home taxes. The exemption that's in Matt Wyer's provision states that you can only get an exemption if you're an owner and it's your principal residence. So, for example, a military member is assigned for 3 years in Hawaii, comes there, purchases a home for his 3-year deployment. He's going to be taxed that empty homes tax if he has a home that he owns back in California.
Thank you, Mr. Tree. Your time is up. We do have very many people ahead of us. Does anyone have questions for Mr. Tree? Because I know he touched on the tax we were talking about today, but also other things that we that aren't a part of this particular measure currently. Any questions? Nope. Okay. Thank you.
Could I just say that
Mr. Tree, thank you.
Tax? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Roberta Morgan, followed by Piper Neri.
Good morning, council members. Thank you, budget committee members, excuse me. Thank you for allowing us to speak today. And I just, my concern is the same as Jim's, and I think that his second point was really the same. It's an empty home tax right now. There are many homes, mine is one of them, occupied for at least 6 months out of the year, but it's not my principal residence yet. And there are many people, many of my neighbors that would fall into the same category. It's occupied, but it's not our principal residence. And so I would like for you to really consider, if you would, a change to the current way it's written that would allow for people like us, because our homes really are not empty. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan. I know that we received your email as well, and thank you for that for adding that feedback along with Mr. Tree's noted. And I hope that all who are testifying online will be able to stay with us, as well as those in person, as we go out throughout the discussion, in case any members have any further questions as we go through the different parts of the bill.
Thank you.
Members, any other questions? Okay. Moving forward, Piper Neri, followed by, I think, Jocelyn Aykroyd. And if I said your name wrong, please just let me know. Piper Neri.
Next testifier is not logged on.
Okay. I'll try to come back to list her name after. Jocelyn Aykroyd, followed by, let's see, in person, David Arakawa.
Testifier is not logged on.
Okay. Can I have a pen? Thank you. So, Piper, Jocelyn. Next, David Arakawa, followed by Christine Oroza.
Chair, testifier is not logged on.
Okay, thank you. Christine Oroza, followed by Miley Skinner.
Aloha Council members, my name is Christine Aroza. I support the original version of Bill 46 and hope you will consider making a change on page 5 of the approved CD1 under exemption number 2. The second sentence was changed from the original, and I know this is an unintended consequence, but this will encourage the vacant homes to be converted to an illegal short-term rental. Please consider restoring the original language to block those trying to game the system. For example, a house one over from mine was purchased about 3 to 4 years ago by a Virginia resident who outbid many local families. He comes here with his family in the summer. It sits vacant for the rest of the year, and somehow he managed to get a homeowner's exemption. So there are ways around the system, so let's not make it easier. I know you have the tough job of trying to accommodate your diverse constituents. However, most residents don't own one home, so having more than one is a luxury. This bill does not try to take away the right to own more than one home. It can be rented out to residents who need it. Our priority should be housing for residents and not preserving vacation homes. Thank you for your consideration and service.
Thank you, Ms. Alzal. Just for our clarification, your mention is what is included on the current CD1 on page 5 and number 2 under exemptions. Is that what you said?
Yes.
And that's the current part of it.
Pardon?
Your testimony was to remove that part of the bill? Is that what you said?
Oh, no, to restore the original version, the language in that.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure my notes were correct. Members, any other questions? Thank you. Moving forward, we have Miley Skinner, followed by Robert Gold.
Chair, testifier is not logged on.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Robert Gold, followed by Jennifer Andrews.
Two questions. Exactly how many vacant dwellings are there on Oahu at the present time, given the current exemptions in the bill? Second one is, why are so many low-income rental and for purchase properties going vacant? If you cannot answer those questions, the bill should be defeated on that basis alone. You will lose the current added revenues from many homes without an owner exemption that already pay more than twice the tax rate of owner-occupied homes. The expenses of administrating the law will remain steady as the revenue drops, causing a negative revenue stream. The city will be embroiled in many lawsuits over the confiscatory nature of the bill that will increase the cost even more as the revenue dries up. It will not pass constitutional muster, and the city will face great liability costs as a result. The properties that are sold because of this law will depress the market on values on Oahu in general, causing a greater reduction of property tax revenue. Where's the benefit to those property owners?
Thank you. Members, any questions for Mr. Gold? Thank you very much. Next, we will have Jennifer Andrews, followed by Natalie Iwasa.
Thank you, Chair Cordero, and fellow chair members. My name is Jennifer Andrews. I'm with the Honolulu Board of Realtors, representing over 6,700 of our members, and we share our concerns regarding Bill 46, and we are in opposition of. We have submitted our written testimony, which has detailed in great length our concerns. In regards to this bill, a number of concerns is number one, that the City Council has already agreed to pay Ernest Young $500,000 for a study on vacant homes. We encourage City Council to wait for this important report to be provided so that we can make sure what is actually actual factual data before this proceeds forward. In addition, we do have concerns about the number of exemptions, which causes an alarm that this is not probably the best bill to push forward in haste. And we would love to continue interaction with city councils through a permitted interaction group to share our concerns and work towards solutions rather than imposing consequences to property owners. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Jennifer. Members, are there any questions for Jennifer? Thank you, Jennifer. Next, we have Natalie Iwasa, followed by Betty Lou Larson. Hi, Natalie.
Thank you, Chair Cordero. Natalie Iwasa for the record. So since this is a discussion, I would like you to make sure that the director of BFS covers several things. First of all, how would the vacant homes tax be treated upon the sale of that home? For example, how would they be prorated similarly to real property taxes? And please, in that part of the discussion, please ask him to give examples. So use, like, for example, a September 30th deadline. What happens if the home is purchased before September 30th? What happens if it's purchased after September 30th? Please discuss the administration costs. I understand it will take additional staff, software, education, that type of thing. How much is that going to cost? What's involved? Please also discuss the evidence, because as you know, most of it does not prove any type of occupancy or time length. So what is going to be covered in that? Are they going to request all of those documents? And will owner occupants be treated differently than landlords? You know, will there just be a certification, or will they automatically require certain evidence? I think all of these points are very important for everybody to understand and appreciate the fact that you're having this discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Natalie. Members, any questions for Ms. Iwasa? Thank you very much. Next, we have Betty Lou Larson, followed by Susan Lee.
Aloha. Aloha, this is Betty Lou Larson representing Catholic Church Hawaii. I'm sorry if my photo is strange. I'm on the phone and I don't get a picture on it. We're here because Oahu is in danger. Our people are leaving. 185 people every day are leaving. And why? Cost of living. A major portion of that is the cost of housing. People can't afford to rent. They can't afford to buy. How can they stay here? So we feel that this is the time where bold action is needed. What we've done in the past has helped, but it's definitely not helping enough. We need bold solutions. We need to really take action soon. We need to have something that will make a significant impact. And we feel that this is a bill. So we support this bill. We support 100% going to affordable housing, but we understand that there are other needs. And we also understand that 50% of the revenues generated by this type of a bill would provide a significant impact to the local families. So as a matter of health and a matter of really having a strong community, we support this bill, and we ask you to consider it because of the stability of Oahu and to create that stability for our local families. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Betty Lou Larson? Okay, next we have Susan Lee.
Chair, testifier is not logged on.
Okay, I'll call you up for in person. Thank you. I will now call up again Piper Neri, Jocelyn Aykroyd, David Arakawa, Miley Skinner. Okay. Seeing none, I will now, is there anyone else online who wishes to testify? Please use the raise hand feature on Zoom or press star 9 to indicate your desire to speak. Okay, seeing none, members, we will now close remote testimony. We will now move on to registered in-person testifiers. When I call your name, please proceed to the podium and begin by stating your name. First up, we will have Leslie Keating, followed by Robert Perkinson, followed by Ray Kamikawa. Press the on button, please. Yes.
Sorry, my first time. Hi, my name is Leslie Keating. I'm here in support of the empty homes tax. As a mother of 4 with kids between the ages of 6 and 15, I am concerned with the housing availability here on the island and my children's ability to obtain any sort of housing when they are adults. So I would like to see this as a first step in prioritizing housing for local residents instead of investors. I appreciate that investors need to make money, but I think our primary responsibility is to the residents of Oahu. Thank you.
Thank you, members. Any questions for Ms. Keating? And thank you very much for your first time coming before the council. We hope you come back more. Thank you very much. Next, we have Robert Perkinson, followed by Ray Kamikawa.
Am I on?
Yes.
Aloha. My name is Robert Perkinson, and I wanted to speak in favor of Bill 46 as a modest way to try to address this very serious problem of the housing crisis that is driving people from Hawaii, that is impoverishing members of our community, constricting the middle class, and kind of fueling, in a way, the anger that we saw expressed in Tuesday's election. By taking a modest step to kind of nudge some units that are empty into the rental and sale market and generate revenue, we're at least moving in the right direction. I want to say something too to the opposition. This is going to be a bite for people who have houses who are empty. Some of them have worked very hard. They have plans for them. But I would propose to you something you know really well, which is that if we try to solve big problems and wait for everyone to agree, we will not solve them. This happens to you all the time. If you try to wait for a senior center to be approved for all the neighbors to agree, it won't get built. If you wait for an affordable housing condo to be approved for all of the neighbors who will have their view blocked to agree, it won't get built.
Okay,
and if we defer to people who have empty homes to make the right decision, if we wait to solve it for everyone, no one will win. So please, I think you all know what the right thing to do is, so please do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, first, are there any questions for Mr. Perkinson? Thank you. Next, we have Ray Kamikawa, followed by Evan Oy.
Morning, Chair, council members. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. If this bill were to pass, I respectfully request that you amend the bill to provide for an exemption and grandfather all existing leases until their expiration. As a landlord, I am obligated and bound by this lease to a nonprofit entity. I cannot break the lease to conform to any exemption if this bill were to pass, even if I wanted to. And there's no way I can pass on any penalty tax to this lessee if the lessee doesn't cooperate in an audit and not provide any substantiation to prove that they are, in fact, providing this house for workforce development. Secondly, I'm happily retired now, but in my prior life, I served as the state tax director under Governor Ben Cayetano. I was also an attorney advisor to the Internal Revenue Service. And I'm here to tell you, you don't need to wait for a consultant study to tell you that this is an entirely new tax regime that's going to require new tax compliance by a whole new bunch of tax auditors. And it's going to require so much compliance. It's going to require compliance again in a very complex bill. And it's going to result in inequality in compliance and a rampant non-compliance. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Council Chair Waters.
Yeah. Also, Mr.
Kamikawa.
Kamikawa, good to see you again. I just want some clarification on, because if your property is leased, then this tax wouldn't apply. So I'm not sure what you're asking.
Oh, it depends on what the lease provides and what the lessee does with the property.
But the idea is we want it to be occupied by a family or a person.
Correct, but
but-
my lease is to a nonprofit entity.
Right.
And that nonprofit entity has told me they use it for workforce development, which accomplishes the objective of the bill. But there's no way for me to enforce that against the nonprofit entity or to require the nonprofit entity to substantiate that use to my satisfaction so that I can satisfy the city.
I see.
As to the use, and there's no obligation for that entity to comply with that. As a practicing attorney, I'm retired now, but because of this bill, I would require all my clients to put in their leases that their tenants have to work with the landlord to comply with Bill 46, and if they don't comply or cooperate, they're liable for the additional tax that's going to be imposed on me.
So you're saying that you're renting out a residential piece of property, a home or apartment, to a nonprofit? Okay.
And I'm sure I'm not alone. You know,
Right.
there are a lot of leases out there that may or may not comply with the lease, and the landlord may want to comply with Bill 46, but cannot terminate the lease and rent it to individuals.
Okay. So one of the exemptions that we're considering is the dwelling is exempt if it is used for the operation of a nonprofit organization. Would that satisfy your?
You see, I was involved in a
concerns?
lot of nonprofit tax examinations and audits, and the question is workforce development consistent or substantially related to the exempt purpose of the nonprofit? Maybe, maybe not. But this exemption doesn't neatly fit that situation, you see? So that's another example of how hard it is going to be to comply with this bill, because these exemptions may or may not cover all situations.
Right. So on those rental properties, are you paying a residential tax rate, or are you paying the
I'm
commercial?
paying residential A.
Commercial, you're paying not
Yeah.
commercial though.
No,
Even though
I'm
it's-
not. I'm hardly charging any rent to this nonprofit.
Yeah. Okay, no, thank you. And if we have further questions, I'll contact you offline.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Chair.
you. Members, any other questions for Mr. Kamikawa? Okay, seeing none, moving forward, we have MNOA followed by Albany Coate, followed by Chelsea Kurtz.
Aloha, Chair, members of the committee, Evan Oe, on behalf of NIAP Hawaii. We respectfully stand in opposition to this measure, and we just wanted to highlight a few concerns noted within our testimony. Primarily, our main concern is the lack of clarity in regards to implementation and feasibility in application for this tax in regards to Honolulu specifically. Second, we were worried about unintended consequences, in particular, deterrent of investment here in Honolulu's affordable housing stock. This is already a delicate housing development environment, and we're concerned that this may add further burden. And then the third would be highlighting the legal concerns, especially in relation to a potential taking or regulatory scheme, which may result in a constitutional taking. So we just wanted to note those concerns, and we'll be available for any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, members. Any questions? Okay, Evan, I have a question. So how does it affect the members of NIAP, and who are the members of NIAP?
So NIAP Hawaii is an association of developers here in Honolulu. We represent affordable housing development, and we also represent commercial real estate development here across the state, actually. So, we, as an affordable housing advocate, we strongly support the production of affordable housing, but we are concerned that this may add additional risk for developers as they're, running pro formas or analyzing how the cost of a project here in Honolulu may pencil out. So, that's especially concerning given the high construction costs as well as regulatory costs that come, in hand when you're looking at developing housing here in our county.
Members, any other questions? Councilmember Tipola.
Aloha. My question was about the word you said, the constitutional take. Are you referring to page 13 under 8.8 foreclosure? Are you saying that the non-compliance with it and the possible foreclosure on the property would be a constitutional take? Can you expound on that?
Yeah, so when you look at the Fifth Amendment for the Constitution, there needs to be a substantial relationship between the taxes being implemented.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So not specifically the foreclosure aspect within the measure. It's more.
So you're referring to the fact that taxes are only allowed if it actually is doing the service that it's supposed to be doing and not unjustly penalizing people. I think that's what it says in the amendment.
Correct.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? Next, moving forward to Albany Cody, followed by Chelsea Kurtz, followed by Macy Kaufman.
Hi. Good morning. Thank you for hearing my testimony today. My name is Albany Coate. I'm a renting student. I'm in my senior year at UH Manoa, and I strongly support this bill. Passing this bill has the unique opportunity to use existing infrastructure to house residents here on island. This is a sustainable solution, a start to a sustainable solution that would help end the housing crisis here. Encouraging those who intentionally choose to keep their properties vacant to rent them out, we can take one step forward in prioritizing affordable and accessible housing for local residents, families, and students who need housing now. Please, I encourage you to support this bill and pass it, and support the constituents who have supported you throughout your terms. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, any questions for Albany? And thank you, Albany, for your testimony, and we hope that you can continue to come back and testify to the council. Next, Chelsea Kurtz, followed by Macy Kaufman, followed by Leonard Bruce.
Good morning. My name is Chelsea Kurtz. I come here today in opposition of this bill because I have the unique situation of being a homeowner in Oahu, a military spouse, a licensed real estate agent, and I also have a degree in politics. This kind of gives me the set of knowledge to understand that the complexity and intricacies of human life does not begin to cover the 15 exemptions. That's a problem for me and many other military spouses, is we don't often get to choose where we go or when we go. A lot of time our orders are for 4 years, but then we leave in 2.5, and that's exactly what happened to us last time we were here. And I'm not sure how this is going to translate for families like me, where I don't get to call anywhere home. I get to be home wherever they take me. And it's important to see that we have the opportunity to not be penalized when we do leave or while we're trying to leave. And I don't know how you're going to implement this in a way that if I am on the mainland or somewhere else, that I'm not gonna have to pay this tax.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Councilmember Tipola? Ms. Kurtz, can you please return?
Thank you for being here. I had a quick question because one of the exemptions has to do with military personnel. I just wanted to see what your thoughts were. So it says that this would be an exemption. The occupant of the dwelling unit who has legal occupancy rights to the residential property is deployed outside of the city on active duty with the Armed Forces of the United States during the tax year.
The issue is the word deployed.
Okay,
so
that's what I thought.
Reassignment is where I would be forced to leave on orders, right? And what if the 6 months isn't? 6 months goes by pretty fast. You know, we might not be able to handle it in 6 months.
I thought so, that it was the word deployed.
Yeah.
Because it's not always deployment that makes you leave, right?
Yeah. For example, my father has dementia. If I have to go back to the mainland to take care of my family's estate, am I going to be penalized for being gone for 6 months while my husband's gone? Or if we all have to go? It's such an intricate thing.
Yeah,
it's very
interestingly,
delicate.
I hear what you're saying. I agree, though, because there is one for a medical exemption if you're taking care of people, but then it's like kind of mixed in there, right? You're military and you're doing something that's medically needed for your family. But thank you for your insight. Appreciate that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Kurtz, please remain until I call for the next testifier. Council Chair Waters.
Thank you so much, and thank you for coming in and testifying. So the word deployed, in the context that you're using it, means like sent overseas?
Yeah, deployed is, in terms of like military, I guess, terminology, is my husband, who's the active duty service member, is gone. Now, let's say we all have to go back to the mainland for something. It could be a TDY. Maybe my husband has to go to school for a year, but we want to keep our home because we're coming back. How does that look? How do we implement this? How do you guys look at this situation and say, oh, so you're coming back to Oahu in a year or 9 months or however long that TDY is or however long that... My husband's a major, and the higher up they get, the harder it is for me to have any control over where our family goes or where life takes us. We never thought we would be sent back to the island, and here we are again. If we had bought a house the first time, which we should have because it was 2017, it would have been much more affordable for us. But now we're looking at, you know, our home in Evo. That's very expensive, and we have to look at things like, do we sell our house when we leave? Can we sell it? Is it going to take, you know, more than 6 months to sell it? How will you look at that exemption?
I guess what I'm getting at is it's a matter of semantics that perhaps we can solve that problem by changing the term from deployed or adding another term. You're using other terms like TDY. I have no idea what that is.
Right.
So I guess I'm asking you for help. In what language can we put in this bill that would solve your problem? So deployed and or activated, I mean, what's another term that's used in the military that
I honestly
easily
think
understandable?
it would take a sit down with military families, or even for me to go to legal and say, what kind of terminology would they use? Because things change all the time. You know, how can we give you something to help understand our situation if things change? And I don't even know if I give you a set now that we would know that inevitably in 3 years that's what the terminology will be, or it's very hard to see this being comprehensive enough for me to be able to handle this, because I'm going to be honest, this is always put on the spouse. The service member never has to deal with this kind of stuff. I had to buy our house. I have to do all the other family moving pieces. And to add an exemption that I have to file for or deal with while I'm dealing with whatever else, it's overwhelming that I don't even know how we're going to do this. Do we have to be in person to file this? Do I have to, if we come back and we need to like have a sit down or call? I mean, the East Coast is 6 hours behind. It makes it very difficult to see how we can go through this without being like severely penalized.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Moving forward, we have Macy Kaufman, followed by Leonard Bruce, followed by Jolie Tokusato. Macy Kaufman.
Hi, my name is Macy Kaufman. I'm a student at Manoa, and I am here in support of Bill 46. As a student attending college, I have seen how hard it is to find safe, affordable, and clean housing, and that's just for a college student. I could not imagine being a Native or local family trying to find safe and affordable housing for my whole family where kids would be safe and that would be in a good school district. I think this bill would help put all the empty homes and empty buildings that have been bought up by investors onto the market for local families. And I think it would help local and Native families stay in Hawaii. Thank you so much for your time.
Members, any questions? Thank you very much for your testimony. Moving forward, we have Leonard Bruce, followed by Jolie Tokusato, followed by Jeffrey Lauren.
Good morning, established members of the council. As we know, Hawaii is the most populated landmass in the world. Trapped by resources it cannot extract, like most other islands, any resource it can extract is not worth the price of exporting it. So it must sell the only resource of real value, the island itself. Hawaii has white sand beaches and the allure of the tropics, so they sell that dream. As a result, this place has become one of the most popular destinations in the world and is a state run for tourists at more than anything. However, it has done so at the expense of the local population, often treating the locals as an afterthought, as many struggle to pay for rent and find housing if they need to stay, so they leave. Housing is a scarcity problem in Hawaii, and as an economics major, it's my obligation to focus on a scarcity within a given economy. While passing this bill won't solve the housing crisis overnight, it's a step in the right direction, showing that we care about the families here. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, may I ask that you please state your name for the record?
Oh, Leonard Bruce, my apologies.
Okay, Leonard, are there any questions for Mr. Bruce? Thank you very much. Next, we have Jolie Tokusato, followed by Jeff Lee Laurent, followed by Stu Simmons.
Good morning, Chair Cordero, Chair Waters, and members. Unite Here Local 5 represents 10,000 working people in the hotel, food service, and healthcare industries. We support the intent of this bill, but we have concerns and want the two amendments outlined in our written testimony. I would also like to express my personal thoughts. Many of our members are renters who cannot afford a $500 unexpected expense. Still, 1,800 of them just came off a 40-day strike to improve the lives of themselves and of this community. They testified here, and we do everything possible to be contributing citizens in our community. Nearly every dollar we make goes right back into this community, and we fight corporations to give to the residents. But we can't fix the housing crisis ourselves, and we look to you as legislators to look out for the most vulnerable people, people who are renters, people who can't buy a home. So please amend the bill, and this would be a really good bill. Yeah. If you want to know what the two amendments are, you can just ask me. Thank you.
Okay, hold on. Thank you. Stay there, because I need you to state your name for the record.
Jolie Tokusato from Unite Here Local 5.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Ms. Tokusato? Seeing none, moving forward to Jeff Lee Laurent, followed by Stu Simmons, followed by Marianne Bruno.
Yes, hi, my name is Jeffrey Laurent, and I come in opposition to the bill. I think there is an overly simplistic broad brush being applied to what I think is a very serious problem, and I laud the effort to try to find a solution to the problem, but this isn't the solution. There's a huge disconnect between the empty houses and the people that are needing affordable housing. And as people have said in the past, if the bill is successful, there actually won't be any revenue generated. It'll be filled with people that are either renting or selling the homes. But you need to segment. You need to segment where are the people that are actually in need of homes, what is the rate in which they need to rent to be able to find affordable housing, where are the homes that are available, at what price range are they available, are they luxury homes, are they really solving the problem? What kind of homes? Are people investing in strictly holding for investment purposes, or are they holding it because, like me, they bought a house here to live in full-time, and now they have to leave because of what's going on here, but we come all the time. Basically, we have a gun to our head. 4 choices: rent, can't do it, fully furnished home, car, you name it, everything's in the house. How do you rent it out? 2, you sell, but then we lose our house and we have to pay the 7.25% tax. On us, it's over $150,000. The tax alone on an annual basis would be over $80,000. It's insane. We can't do that. We could, what else can we do? We could try.
May I ask you to please conclude? Wrap up your testimony.
Okay. I think I've made the point that I think that you need to segment and really understand the market in which you're trying to solve the problem, because the simplistic approach is really not doing it. Look at housing for instance, students. I hear a number of students coming in. They should really be looking at where are there rooms or parts of houses available. A student is not going to be able to rent a house like the house that I have. I don't know about the other 34,000, but there's many people that are probably in my situation.
Mr. Laurent, thank you very much. May I just state your last statement, and then I need to move on.
Jeffrey Laurent.
State your last statement and then move on.
I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions? Okay, Chair Waters.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today. I'm curious, where do you call your principal place of residence?
New Jersey.
New Jersey. What's the property tax rate in New Jersey?
Rate I don't know, but we pay more for tax slightly in the town of where we are. However, it includes education, which is 50% of the tax bill. So there's a huge difference. Here, we don't have a home exemption, so we're paying over $16,000 for our house here on an annual basis. So we pay substantially more here than we would in New Jersey. And New Jersey has all of the education costs in it.
Are you currently paying the residential A tax category here in Hawaii?
So if it's not your principal, I can't remember the terminology, but if it's not your principal residence, we pay 2.26 times more than somebody with a home exemption that's living here.
Okay, yeah, I think you're probably, if your home
So
is
we're at
over-
0.7922%, whatever that is, versus the 0.35.
Okay, okay. Thank you, thank you.
Members, any other questions? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Laurent. Next, we have Stu Simmons, followed by Mary Ann Bruno, followed by Ellen Carson.
My name is Stu Simmons, and I'm a Wahoo housing advocate. I had publicly supported the original version of Bill 46, but now I have grave concerns with the CD1. I firmly believe allowing 30-day rentals be counted as part of the 6-month rental occupancy will have a significant unintended negative consequences that will cause more harm than good for Oahu's residents. After the passage of Ordinance 22-7, Federal Court Judge Derek Watson ruled that non-permitted vacation rental property owners can legally have vacationers sign a 30-day rental agreement, and those vacationers will be allowed to occupy the property for any period of time. So the new vacation rental business model is to have all vacationers sign a minimum 30-day lease, regardless of how long they stay. The vast majority of empty home property owners will convert their properties into non-permitted vacation rentals that are rented once every 30 days and up to 12 times a year in order to avoid the empty home tax. I strongly recommend the City Council return to the original version crafted by Council Members Waters and Cordero that required the rental periods to be no less than 90 days.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Members, any questions for Mr. Simmons? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we are in receipt of your testimony. Next, Mary Ann Bruno, followed by Ellen Carson, followed by Max, and I'm so sorry if I say your name wrong, but please correct me if I'm wrong, Max Bilowski.
Good morning, Chair and council members. My name is Mary Ann Bruno, and I've lived and worked on Oahu since 1963. I was fortunate to purchase a second condo in the building I live in because I live in a 2-bedroom condo and I caregive my brother. And so he has 1 bedroom, I have 1 bedroom, and all of my family members have moved to the mainland for school, work, whatever the case is, and they really need to come back yearly to get their home, what I call fixed. They want to come home once a year just to be here on vacation, and it's not very affordable. I live on the North Shore of Oahu. The only hotel available is Ritz-Carlton, Turtle Bay Hilton, anywhere from $600 plus a night. So I use my condo to house my family, my friends, their friends, some people I don't know sometimes, and they don't pay. So I apologize, I don't know Bill 46 as well as some of these other people that have identified it, but I'm hoping that there's some kind of solution, an alternative type of wording so that we can make it fair for everybody.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Bruno, I was wondering, so you mentioned that you currently own 2 1-bedroom condos, one for your sibling that you're caretaking for, yes?
I own 2 2-bedrooms.
Two
This
bedrooms.
building I live in are all 2-bedroom, 2 baths.
Okay.
So I live in one and I use the other one for family and friends and.
Oh, I see. Oh,
Right.
okay. I understand that
And
now.
they don't pay.
Okay. I just wanted the clarification because I thought it was the first part, but then you mentioned the family members coming for one time a year and you were
Right.
using a certain part. So I just need a clarification on that.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, members, sorry. Council Chair Waters.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming out today and explaining your situation. So would it be safe to say that, so you are a homeowner and you reside in your own home, right?
Yes.
And
I have a second home that's an empty net, I guess empty.
right, but you derive income from a local source, right?
Yes,
Either employment.
I work and
you work.
derive income. I'm a sole breadwinner.
And you owned your current piece of property where you live
Correct.
over 5 years?
I've owned it since 1996. And the second home I bought I was fortunate to be able to buy it in 2005.
One of the things we're contemplating, or at least I'm contemplating, is perhaps making an exemption where you're allowed one additional home that this wouldn't apply to. But in your case, you have 2 additional homes.
No, I live in my home, and then I have another home, a second home, in the same building here.
I see.
On the North Shore, just so they can be close to me when they visit.
Okay. Like I said, one of the things that I'm considering and perhaps making an amendment at the appropriate time to take care of your type of situation. But thank you. Appreciate you coming out and testifying.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Seeing none, we have Ellen Carson, followed by Max Bilowski, followed by Brooke Schroeder.
Good morning. I'm Ellen Carson, testifying in support of Bill 46. And I thank you for addressing our housing crisis. And I ask you to keep this bill strong, to keep the dedication of revenues for affordable housing and homelessness. We have a humanitarian crisis that deserves that level of help. I also ask you to keep in exemptions 4.1 and 4.2 the language regarding principal residence. That is what allows us to prioritize housing for Oahu's residents. BFS has used this principal residence, principal home language for 125 years. This is not a new concept. We're just extending it to renters and permitted occupants. If you instead change to physical occupancy, as has been proposed for exemption 4.2, that drops all prioritization for Oahu residents. It would be a vote in favor of the status quo of allowing the short-term rentals or visitors or snowbirds or anyone else that doesn't have a home here to fill in at any length of period of time, because that's the way Section 4.2 currently is. And I would ask you to instead at least impose a 30-day minimum for Section 4.2 so that we won't be encouraging more short-term rentals, and also to make sure that we keep the prioritization for Oahu residents. This bill won't have its effect otherwise.
Okay, thank you for your testimony, members. Are there any questions? Ms. Carson, can you just repeat the last parts? You made references to sections, and is that to the current bill?
Yes, this is in CD1. It's sections 4.1 and 4.2, both of which rely on principal residence to define someone that actually has a home, does their business here, has all the indicia of residency of Oahu. And the other language that I was referring to is in section 4.2, which currently reads that you can accumulate any period of time whatsoever up to 6 months by amassing a whole group of visitors that are coming and people that if you use this physical occupancy standard, it would have no relationship to Oahu residents, and you'd actually be encouraging what the council has tried so hard to discourage, which is short-term rentals under 30 days.
Okay, thank you very much. Members, are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, we will next move on to Max Bilowski, followed by Brooke Schroeder, followed by Susan Lee.
Aloha, my name is Max Kamwala Bilowski. I'm here in support of Bill 46 in all of its capacity. I'm a renter who lives in Mo'iliili. I'm also a student at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, and I also serve as the Senator at Large for the Associated Students of ASUH, right? So I'm here to make it very clear. This bill is about valuing the voice of the people over moneyed interest, and this is important. This is about solving the housing crisis that we're facing in Hawaii. We always ask for solutions, and this is a solution. So we're tired of hearing about how we're gonna solve it. This is how we're gonna solve it. And this bill is about showing where the council interests lie, and I ask, do they lie with thousands of workers who live paycheck to paycheck, Or do they lie with people who don't even reside here, who don't live here, who don't contribute to our AINA? Finally, I just wanted to say mahalo for giving us your time, and the people speak, property doesn't.
Okay, thank you very much. Members, do you have any questions for Mr. Bilowski? Thank you very much. Next, we have Brooke Schroeder, followed by Susan Lee.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for hearing out the people who are in favor of this tax. My name is Brooke Schrader, and I am in favor of Bill 46 and the empty homes tax. I've been on Oahu for 5 years, and I can see the empathy of how Oahu is built on community. And if we take that away, what is Hawaii? It is a privilege to be here, and it is a privilege to live here. And out housing people that have been here longer than us, that's just not fair. This bill is truly the representation and the solution for fairness for the people of Oahu. And I just don't understand how the people are asking for a solution when we have one. Of course, there can always be exemptions to this. Everybody has a story, but we need to focus on community here. That is the biggest issue in this sense. And thank you for your time and listening.
Thank you very much. Members, do you have any questions? Actually, Brooke, I have a question. You brought in some points, and I know that I'm not as young as you, but being younger, people always anticipate, like, why are you making decisions that you may not need in the future, need until the future? So when you mentioned about, like, I guess like the community as a collective, so let's say a student would want to stay here long after going through UH Manoa. They aren't from here, but they want to make Oahu home. Do you see that this bill will either hurt them in the future as a property owner or not?
Well, of course, there's always situations to this. If you're involved of getting hurt in this situation, and if you're not from here, it is still a privilege to be able to live here on this very small island, which can be, how do I say this? If you live here and if it's gonna hurt you in the future, don't move here. You have to have a exceptional plan for the people of Oahu. This is just about, it's not even about the people who aren't from here. It's about for the people looking for housing for here. So
okay,
I hope you can see the empathetic side of this for the people of Oahu.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Seeing none, we have Susan Lee, and if there's anyone else who wishes to testify, please line up to your right, my left, on this side.
Mahalo, Chair Cordero. My name is Susan Le, and I am the Housing Policy Analyst for Hawaii Appleseed Center for Law and Economic Justice. I'm here testifying on behalf of my organization in strong support of Bill 46. I want to say mahalo to all of the council members. It's very clear that you guys are working diligently to make sure that this bill gets passed and considering all of your constituents. All I ask is that you keep Bill 46 in a manner that would be effective in its intent in helping alleviate our housing crisis. And in order to maximize the effectiveness of Bill 46, I please ask and echo Ellen Carson, retaining the principal residence language in section 4.1 and 4.2, and as well as directing 100% of the tax revenue into affordable housing initiatives and the Affordable Housing Fund. Again, the language of principal residence as opposed to what has been considered before physical occupancy would allow for aggregate stays of essentially allowing short-term rentals, which can increase the overall rental costs in the surrounding area. And additionally, the need for housing here in Hawaii, I just want to remind the council members that a majority is for those who make 60% AMI and less. And so that
May I
means
have
we
you wrap
need
up your testimony, please?
Yes. We need deeply subsidized housing, and ensuring the allocation of those funds to subsidizing housing is incredibly important to actually alleviate our housing situation.
Thank you, Ms. Lay. Members, are there any questions for Ms. Lay? Thank you very much. Okay, yes, please, oh no, sorry. Please come up to the podium, state your name for the record.
Aloha mai kākou. My name is Jasmine Young. People know me as Pikake. Hawaii is my home, and my genealogy is rooted here in these islands. Living here has always been a struggle to maintain and to sustain living here due to the housing situation. I am a part-time teacher for the Hawaii School for the Deaf and Blind, and a full-time student at UH Manoa. I also have multiple side jobs just to make ends meet, just like paying for rent. In the past, I have experienced homelessness because of this, because of high rent, and at times I would need to find other multiple side jobs just to make the ends meet. This is creating a stumbling block because needing these other jobs just to make ends meet affects my livelihood. So Hawaii needs a solution to our housing situation, and I do believe this action of Bill 46, so I'm in support. Mahalo.
Thank you very much, Pikake. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and I definitely understand what you're going through. Members, are there any questions for Jasmine Young or Pikake? Excuse me. Is there anyone else in person who wishes to testify? No, no, thank you. If anyone has any questions for you during discussion, I will allow for any of the members to ask any of the testifiers questions. But is there anyone else in person who has not yet testified, who has not yet registered to testify in person? Thank you. Okay. With that, members, we are now closing in-person testimony, excuse me. Let's see. Yeah, here's. Members, we will now move on to the bulk of our discussion. Members, as we were polling for this meeting, I just highlighted the different parts of the bill, which is basically just the sections of the bill, and wanted to go through that. I want to thank everyone who has provided input in our committee vice chair Wyer's committee, his Housing and Sustainability and Health Committee, as well as during the council meeting. I know that with the adoption of the CD1, that more members, that it would be fruitful to have more discussion on the current aspect of the bill. And we've heard many different stories from property owners as well as members of the community who wish to be property owners like myself, and know that as a co-introducer of this bill that I do want to see this, this effort move forward, but want to have the input of all of our council members. So that's the reason why I wanted to have this ample discussion with the members here before we even take up any further action on this bill. With that, I would like to first up, let me open this. Go through the discussion topics, if I may, so that the members, as well as those who are joining us, will be able to know what we are discussing and that we can go through that in a manner that is, I guess, concurrent with how the bill is laid out, or at least just listed in the bill. With that, we will be able to discuss the purpose and definitions. You know, Council Chair Waters, who we're both co-introducers of the bill, did talk about the purpose like holistically, but looking at it as it is in the bill, then looking at the exemptions portions from the tax, as well as mentions of the administrative processes, reporting requirements, penalties for non-compliance, as well as a discussion, as well as the allocation of the tax revenue from the tax that's would be collected. I know that many of our neighbors have been able to provide great points that we would also like to ask throughout the discussion. I'm hoping that they will be able to stay online or in person, or we can take what they stated and be able to ask the city administration or just have that discussion today. Are there any questions, or would you like me to repeat the different components of the bill that we are discussing today? Nope. Okay, moving forward, I will allow for both myself and Council Chair Waters, I guess, to kind of lead, and then I'll look to the other members for feedback, as well as we can have discussions on that subject matter to the city administration, or if there's a member of the a testifier that you want to ask a question to during that time. We will start with the empty homes tax of purpose and definition. Sorry. Okay, thank you. So currently, majority of the purpose has remained the same in the current CD1 to the original, but in the current CD1, it adds the any dwelling unit, bed and breakfast home, or transient vacation unit on a residential property that does not qualify for any of the exemptions as listed in subsections 8 and under 8.4, and then as stated in that section. So that is what has been amended to in the CD1. And once again, it adds to the purpose the any dwelling unit, bed and breakfast home, or transit vacation unit on a residential property that does not qualify for any of the exemptions. Members, I would like your feedback, but before I move to the members, Council Chair Waters, do you have any discussion or questions for the administration that you would like to start off with?
Oh, thank you. No, I think we're starting off the discussion perfectly, so nothing to add at this point. But
Thank you. Members, I do want to hear from everyone. I do note that I do have other members of the budget committee missing, but I wanted to thank them for their input about it through the other hearings. But I wanted to hear from everyone else. So I would like to ask all the members, if Councilmember Topola, do you have any comments about this current part of the bill for transient vacation rentals, bed and breakfasts, or any dwelling units?
Thanks so much. And thank you for having a discussion about this. I really appreciate it. I guess my first thought when reading I guess we're just doing purpose and definitions, correct?
Yes.
Yep. So in the purpose clause, when it's talking about the cost of living, my very first question, because I've read quite a few studies on this, is what data are we using to, I guess, correlate that vacant homes are affecting the cost of living in Hawaii. So median cost of houses right now, 1.2, 1.4, depending on what you're doing. What studies are we looking at that say that by having less vacant homes that the cost of houses will go down? So that's my first thought, and no one needs to answer. That's just the first thing I thought when I read that preamble. And I think the second thing that I was thinking is, according to a few testifiers, of which I read all the online ones and heard some here today, what are the prices of the vacant homes that are out there? And according to all of these exemptions, how many are left? So with the 15 exemptions and maybe more that will come up, how many vacant homes would we really be targeting, and what are their prices? Because I think for me in my district, I mean, we definitely are looking for like studios around $500 to $800. I mean, I have actual prices I look for all the time every week to try to help people get into housing, but I want to say a lot of the vacant homes are up in the millions. And so it would be good if there was data that I could refer to see how many vacant homes would apply with these exemptions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Tupola. First off, I would like to appoint Council Chair Waters to the Committee on Budget. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt. Thank you very much, Councilmember Tupola. But noted, I had that listed before I had to do that. And great questions. And Councilmember Dos Santos Tan.
Thank you. With regard to the definitions and purpose sections, my just one concern is, we've had a number of testifiers speak about the issue with transient vacation rentals. Right now, the definition relies on the definition in 21-10.1, which is 90 days. I know that the city went through extensive litigation on this point in the Short-Term Rental Alliance case. I also know that the state passed some legislation that allows the city and county to potentially change its ordinance to go back down to 30 days and enforce there. And so this is just a moving part in all of this, and I want us to be aware of that, because at the end of the day, the purpose of the empty homes tax is to discourage these units from being empty and encourage them for long-term rental purposes. And I'm concerned that if we create a policy where we increase the taxes, there's going to be a number of people that just rush to fill them with vacationers. And I don't think that that's part of the purpose here. So I just want to make sure that we're maka'ala to that and we're paying attention to the potential changes that may come down the line.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Say or Vice Chair Kia Aina, do you have any comments to add to the parts of the purpose and definitions? Oh, hold on, sorry. Councilmember Say, I think your mic is hot. Okay.
Yeah. No, I'll pose my questions when we come up to the exemptions.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, sounds good. Council Chair Waters, good for definitions. A part of the purpose and definitions, though, I do want to hit, not purpose and definitions, but the purpose is also in relation to the tax rate and how we would be taxing. So under empty homes tax, the tax rate currently is a supplemental tax in addition to their residential rate that they are that property owners will be paying. So first, the current proposal is 1% for the first tax year of the tax is imposed, 2% for the second tax year that the home is vacant or not used as described in the definition, and 3% for the subsequent third year. And with that, I do want to allow for the discussion that we've mentioned throughout the different hearings. It's about 3 different hearings now, whether it be continuing this supplemental tax rate, having a fixed rate, as I know Councilmember Toba has provided numerous examples of that, or since I believe Council Chair Waters has brought up the ability for making new tax classes as well. I do want to bring that up, and it is not different in the current CD1 of the bill, so that part of the empty homes proposal remains the same, and I would like to have your feedback, and if you have, once again, if you have any questions for the city administration, which I will have during this point, or for any of the testifiers, this is available. If you want me to ask questions to administration first, or Council Chair Waters, since I went this way, I'll try to go back and forth.
Sure, no, thank you so much for bringing that up, because I'd like to hear from the other committee members and the other council members. Okay. But my real quick though, so right now it's a supplemental tax, meaning it's 1%, 2%, 3% over time, in addition to what you're currently paying, right? That's what it currently is. But one of the things I think we're contemplating is perhaps making a new tax class called the empty homes tax class, kind of like residential A. It would be residential E. So instead of it being on top of what you're currently paying, it would be in substitute of what you're currently paying. Yeah, so it'd be 1% the first year, 2% the second year, 3% the third year, rather than an additional 1% on top of what you're currently paying. So that's something to consider. Obviously, if it's a new tax class, it would be less. You'd pay less. But still, you'd pay more than what you're currently paying, with the one exception of, I believe, residential A Tier 2, which is currently 1.15%. Yeah, so good topic, and I'm just curious what other members.
May I have clarification, Chair Waters, on what you just mentioned? With this new tax class, would that mean then that since we also have TVUs and registered vacation rentals in their own tax class, they then automatically would not be, they would automatically be exempt because they are in their own tax class, or no?
Yes, that's my understanding, that if you are currently paying the short-term rental tax, you would still pay the short-term rental tax. This wouldn't apply to you.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
If we create a new class called empty homes tax, then you either fall into one or the other categories. If you fall into the other category, which would be short-term rentals, that's the tax that you pay, not the empty home tax. Unless we did supplemental. If we did supplemental, then it would be on top of that tax if you don't have one of the exemptions. But it sounds like you do have an exemption, so it wouldn't apply to you.
I see. Okay. Understood. Thank you. Members, yeah, so I'm glad that thank you once again for allowing us to have this discussion. I'll allow for Councilmember Say, followed by Councilmember Tupola.
The question I would like to pose to myself and to the council members and maybe to the department, will this particular tax be on top of the assessed values that increase? If the tax assessments have increased, like what has happened in the past 4 years, is it on top of now this tax will be on top of the assessed value, or is it the base of what it is, let's say, for example, of calendar year 2024? Has that discussion been posed to the department? You know, what I'm getting at, in 2024, it was 1 million. 2025, 1.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
This rate increase of the assessed values, would that be incorporated in the rates as far as a 1%, 2%, 3%?
And you're talking about it in the current form of the bill where,
Yes.
I mean, in the current form where it's still supplemental and 1%, 2%, 3%, yes?
Correct.
It would be.
That's a big whammy.
Yes, it would be. And so that is to incentivize for property owners, not incentivize, but to hopefully encourage property owners to utilize their home for purposes such as renting it out.
Yes.
So for that, let's see here. I don't know how best to describe this.
Madam Chair, that's okay. No, there's no need for a response, but my point is that I like to bring up these type of questions. And when this particular increases occur, it would probably force those private landowners to sell. And they would probably sell at a depressed value to get rid of it. The out years would be, for me, with the sale of this particular empty homes, will it be at a value that is, present value or decreased value? And I can't figure that out. But my whole point is I'm having this type of a discussion in anticipation. If the empty home tax bill is enacted, what are the fiscal implications to our overall general fund budget?
Thank you.
Thank you.
And so I think, first off, I do want to answer about the total tax assessed value, which does increase. So if that increase occurs on the total tax assessed value, the tax rate will be based off of the total tax assessed value, correct? Councilmember, Councilmember, do you have anything else? I will then go to Councilmember Tupola, followed by Council Vice Chair Kiaina.
Thank you so much, Chair. Yeah, I guess going off of what Council Chair Waters said, I do feel like the list of exemptions is so lengthy that it's actually just easier to create a tax class. I would be really interested to hear what BFS has to say about that. But the only reason I say that is because I do think the 1, 2, and 3 is way too much, seeing as though most of the houses in Hawaii are over $1 million. Even if it's a broken down house, it's usually over $1 million, right? When we're doing 1, 2, and 3% on top of the tax rate, on top of valuations increasing, like definitely I think we're going to be unfairly burdening a lot of people. But I think if we're getting to the point where we're exempting all of these people and the exemptions are so much that it would probably be easier for BFS if we just are identifying who's left after the exemptions. So if it's not these people, not these people, not these people, then who are those people? Because I would say that in order for us to not get into the TVU conversation, we should leave them alone, because also something that it doesn't say in the bill is that this should only be for TVUs that are in the permitted resort zone area, because that's what we all decided. So I think if we said that, not just TVUs in general or Airbnbs in general, just those that are permitted in the resort area exempt, something like that, where it's like we're not touching classes that we've already touched in other bills and made specifications on what they can and can't do. To Councilmember Dos Santos Tam's point, I think when we get overly prescriptive, then we're almost writing over other laws, when we really should kind of pigeonhole ourselves into exactly what we're trying to identify as what the vacant home is. Because if that's not residential, if it's not residential A, meaning the first and the second, if it's like 4 or 5, then we're actually talking about a specific class of people. I think that would be a lot easier for them to identify, and then it wouldn't be on top of a whole bunch of other taxes. So I did like the few comments that were brought up, and I think maybe we're getting closer by writing more and more exemptions. We're getting closer to identifying who and what we're talking about. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I move on to Council Vice Chair Kia Aina, I know Council Chair Waters has a response for that. Council Chair Waters.
Okay, thank you so much. I agree with Councilmember Tupola that it's probably easier and cleaner if we do a different tax category. It also, as pointed out by Councilmember Tupola, that if you are a legal short-term rental, you already have a tax class. And this could be used as a tool to further regulate the illegal guys, right? So we want to encourage you to be a legal, if you are eligible, to be a legal short-term rental. I just want to also bring some perspective. So in New Jersey, if your home is worth $1 million, you're paying $22,349 in taxes per year. New Jersey has the highest tax rate of 2.23%. In Hawaii, you're paying residential tax $3,152 per year at $1 million. Of course, the gentleman had a home over $1 million, so he's paying a different tax category. But I'm just trying to put things into perspective. As a homeowner resident who lives in the house, you're currently paying $3,152. Now, if we do as a separate category the empty homes tax at 1%, you're paying $10,000 a year. Still half of what you're paying in New Jersey. Half. So you could see why people would want to come to Hawaii and purchase a home, because the tax rate is the lowest in the country. The lowest in the country. If you're paying the 2% rate, you're paying $20,000 a year on $1 million home. Again, still $2,000 less than what you're paying in New Jersey. So, of course, it's an incentive to come here and buy a home because the taxes are lower. Now, of course, I know what the gentleman is going to say, that the property value is much probably higher here in Hawaii, so you end up paying more. But again, at $1 million home, it's only a little over $3,000 that you're paying. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Council Vice Chair Kia Aina.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, thank you for having this informational briefing. I think it's helpful as we move forward in deliberation of this measure. You know, I've stated before that I do believe that a permitted interaction group would still be appropriate, not only for further dialogue on this measure, but some of the other issues like residential A, which I feel is another tool to achieve some of our policy objectives. So I guess my first question is, I'm assuming that the majority of the empty homes we're talking about is residential A. Can I get clarity on that? Is that correct? Is the answer yes to that? It's normally a second home. It's an empty home because it's not a primary residence. It's an empty. Yes, I understand. Well, actually, residential A, they have different categories for taxes, but residential A is normally not owner-occupied. So is it fair to say that all of the empty homes we're talking about will fall in that residential A category? And the only reason I'm raising this is that the only difference then is the residential A that are not occupied for less than 6 months. So I'm just trying to better understand what is our target group? Is our target group residential A homes that rent their homes for less than, that are not owner-occupied or are occupied for less than 6 months? And the reason I'm saying this is part of our challenge, of course, is that the residential A tax rate is antiquated. Everybody knows that, right? If the median is over 1 million, then having a tax rate up to 1 million penalizes a lot of local families. In fact, a lot of families, all families that fall in that category. So I guess I'm just thinking that, and I'm looking forward to the BFS coming up to talk about all of these things we're talking about today, because I do believe that revamping the residential A category and appropriately taxing those that are that have valuation of homes that are higher than most is another tool to generate revenues and achieve some of the objectives of our housing advocates if they say that X amount should be used for affordable housing or homelessness. So I just wanted to better understand that, because I was looking forward to the briefing so that we could better understand what we're working with. Because my worry is that even with all of the exemptions, I'm not confident yet that it will adequately address all local families, especially local families who may not be able to prove permanent residency, but have been gone for 30 years, been working very, very hard, but have a second home here and want to retire, as well as be able to prove that they are earning income here. And so then I'm back to the question of, so what is our objective? Because our objective could be achieved in other avenues. So I'm just trying to educate myself.
Thank you, Council Vice Chair Kiaina. So I think the objective, yes, well, if majority of them do fall within the residential A aspect as non-principal residents, then it would be that way. But I do believe that there are those that may or may not have even put in their homeowner exemption that have that just one property that is just residential. Yes, but I also definitely agree with everything you said about the residential A, the antiquation, and needing to address that. We do have BFS here. This is the opportunity for us to ask some questions. Would love for you to, if you want to bring them up.
Well, again, I guess, yeah, if they could, because I'm just trying to understand. So then it would be residential A homes, less than 6 months that are occupied. For those who are 6 months or longer, they will still be subject to the residential A, so there will not be double taxation. One would be subject to the empty homes tax, and one would be to the residential A.
Yes.
Director Kawano, can you clarify that for me? Or did you want to do that?
Oh, no. Thank you. I just want to say thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Good morning, Budget Chair Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. Good discussion point, Vice Chair Kiaina. I think it goes beyond the residential A in terms of, and we don't know what the number is yet, because residential A by definition would be residential parcels in excess of $1 million without the homeowner's exemption. So you're going to have, a lot of lower assessed valued parcels under $1 million. Could be homes, could be condos, could be apartment units that are in the residential class
on a current basis. So you're talking about a lot more, just rough numbers, and this is not accurate. I'm just off the top of my head. If you add all of the residential and residential A parcels, and this includes parcels that may not have homes on it. It could be a parking lot, it could be storage and things like that. But you're talking about 285,000 parcels. We have about 155,000 homeowner exemptions. And then the parcel count in residential A is about 30,000, just round numbers. So you take a 155 plus 30, that's 185. And if the entire population is 285, you're talking about 100,000 parcels we have to analyze. So it's a huge group that we're gonna have to comb through.
Thank you for that. And then as a follow-up with regard to those who are above the million, if this bill were to be implemented, they would only be taxed, the residential A who have more than six, if it's owner-occupied more than, not owner-occupied, but occupied more than 6 months. They would only be taxed the residential A tax, not the empty homes tax.
That is correct, because they would qualify as either having a rental or some other
For more than 6 months.
occupancy in the house, yeah.
Okay.
Based on the exemption list we have now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let's see. I do have, sorry, we're still on the purpose and definition. Okay, so members, are there any other comments or questions for BFS or comments? Council Chair Waters.
Thank you. Before we move on, I'm just curious if the other council members had an opinion on whether or not it should be supplemental or not. I know Councilmember Tupola already opined on it, but I'm curious if the other council members had an opinion.
Council Vice Chair Kia Aina.
I think I actually appreciate the creativity, because I think we need to do that here, right? Because of the diversity of opinions among the council on this matter. But I'd like to see the numbers, to crunch the numbers to see which one is a better one, as opposed to just the concept, the practical implications of that. But I'd be very open to seeing if, rather than supplemental, in lieu of achieves your objectives, your policy objectives. That's all. So I'd like to see a comparison perhaps, and maybe have a hypothetical on, and to see what the difference would be in the outcome of the numbers. So I am open.
Councilmember Say?
At this point in time, I would be very much open to see the differentials between a supplemental versus a class category. But more importantly, I think we've diverted ourselves from the whole objective, trying to get empty homes for local residents and not try to base it upon revenue enhancement. Because if it is going to be revenue enhancement, you're going to have the other side of the coin, whereby it may be detrimental to the real estate market. From the real estate market, then you go on to the construction industry. All of this, I think, we also have to take into consideration the continuum. And that's all I say. But I'll be open to the supplemental and the new category.
Okay, thank you very much. As for the chair, I mentioned before that I believe in the last committee that I was more wedded towards the supplemental, but at a fixed rate. And hearing the proposal today and seeing how we could better fit or lessen even the exemptions list that would be necessary. And also, I think I would also be open to the separate tax classification as well. And I think it would be cleaner. I do know that regardless if we were doing this tax or not, I know our Budget and Fiscal Services, our city administration, has been needing the support for our for their processes to receive all the real property taxes as well. So I do think that could be easier. So, but we can talk about administrative issues later. But I think that with those comments, I would like to move. Were a good number of changes, which I know we discussed in 2 hearings already through our committee vice chair Wire. We know that the biggest part is in relation to the period of dwelling units on the property, as well as for the rental and for the addition of bed and breakfast home, as well as transit vacation units. This is once again the opportunity to ask questions to anyone that has testified, or to our city administration, or to provide any comments. Members, I would like to leave it open to you all first before going with my questions. Councilmember Say.
Madam Chair, may we call Mr. Director Kamikawa?
Oh, sure. Mr. Ray Kamikawa?
Oh, he's not here.
I think he's here. I think he said he agreed to stay. Oh, yes. Hi, Mr. Kamikawa. I believe that we are at the exemptions from the tax portion. I know that you saw both versions of the bill already, as you mentioned in your testimony, but Councilmember Say has questions for you.
Yeah, so of the drafts that you have before you, are you comfortable with any of them as far as exemptions that would incorporate your concerns? Yeah. Can you press the button? They want to hear your voice. You have an excellent.
Yeah, sorry, Council Member. I was just provided the proposed language.
Okay. Madam Chair, we're very blessed to have Director Kamikawa, who is a great director for the state of Hawaii with the Department of Taxation. Too bad he didn't give us any general, GET funds.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. Thank you. Wait, Councilmember Say, can I just ask, what was the question you asked him? I didn't hear it. I spilled my water.
Oh, I asked him the question about his proposed draft that he had in regards to addressing the concerns he had in regards to leases.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is might be a little too specific.
Mr. Kamikawa, why don't you read the amendment that you're reading right now for the general public and for the.
I see. All right. If it's the right subsection, it says adds a new subsection B to provide that a dwelling unit on residential property that is in an empty home but is the principal residence of a renter or other permitted occupant of the property pursuant to a written lease or rental agreement on the effective date of this ordinance qualifies for an exemption from the empty homes tax for the remaining term of the lease or rental agreement, provided that the exemption terminates at the end of the term of the lease or rental agreement without the addition of any lease extensions following the effective date of this ordinance. Yeah, that would probably apply to my situation, except that I don't think my lessee may have written leases or subleases. I don't know why it has to be written. Also, this doesn't apply to a situation where the property is not used for home purposes, where the landlord may want to terminate the agreement and provide for something like this, but it's not permitted to do so under a lease. So I had in mind something more general, like just a very general grandfather or savings clause provision that would have the new tax not apply to the owner or lease for the term of the lease if it doesn't currently qualify for any of the existing exemptions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
We'll
you.
probably contact you further, but more importantly, Madam Chair, we can always call him back to respond to the questions.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Kamikawa. Members, Councilmember Say, you still have the floor. Do you have any other comments?
Yeah. Did you receive my correspondence?
I'm sorry?
You receive my correspondence? Yeah, if you want me to go over that or no.
You can discuss aspects of it if you when we go through this as we go through the sections. If you have like certain proposals, like hey, you would like to see this, but your so Councilmember Say has a proposal that is posted online. As you know, this is for discussion. I wanted an open discussion so that we can hear from the members as well as have this open. Okay, so, but if you do want to bring up those points, Councilmember Say.
Later on, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments about the exemptions? Council Chair Waters.
Thank you so much. You know, it's unfortunate that the more council members aren't here to participate in this discussion because it'll end up coming up at full council at some point. But it'd be good to hash out all of these problems now. Anyway, having said that, just looking at the bill and what we're trying to do is make sure that we're not overly burdening people who have real life experiences. That's why we have so many exemptions, ranging from the number one is if you're the, if it's your principal residency, then you're exempt. If you rent it out, then you're exempt. But we also include things like a legal action exemption, a deceased owner exemption, a medical exemption, a military deployment exemption, which we could change the language to that, of deployment. If you're currently waiting for a building permit, you're exempt. If it's for sale and you're currently actively trying to sell it, you're exempt. But what I wanted to ask you and the rest of the council members is, do we want to try to address Mr. Kuroda's problem? Remember in Kapolei where he came out and he says he has this family home in Mokuleia. It's his second home. Do we want to try to solve that problem? And if we do, I have language to do that. Yeah. You got other homes where you have a bunch of families who come together and made a hui, and they have a second home. Do we want to try to address that? A third example is, you know, say siblings don't want to sell their parents' home who died, right? But it's a second home. Do we want to address that kind of situation? And if we do, you know, we got language to do that. But my question to the members is that something that we want to do? Do we want to adjust was his name Kuroda? Yeah, Mr. Kuroda's situation. It seemed like people were concerned about what Mr. Kuroda was saying. But interestingly, the gentleman did have multiple properties. But I can see us saying, okay, we can exempt one, that one Mokuleia property, but not all of his properties. Because really coming back to the whole purpose, right, is to address the city's housing supply challenges, as the testifier said, right? We really want to get people to rent out their property or sell it. That's the idea of charging the higher tax. And then the revenue that we generate, we use that to build more affordable housing or to address the homeless problem. That's the idea of this whole thing. Anyway, I'm curious to hear from the other council members.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. And I know that, I don't know if Ms. Bruno is still here, and I know you mentioned about how you had language in mind as well to for that one additional property. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure she was still there. So, but yes, just wanted to add to what you just said. So, Members, Council Vice Chair Kiaina.
Thank you. The answer is yes, of course. But it's not just Mr. Kuroda, it's tons of people who are living on Oahu in these circumstances, including from my district. So for us, of course, is how to couch any language that would be legally sound and not be subject to any lawsuit, of course, right? When you're dealing with residency. And the situation of the huis, whether it be related or in conjunction with friends, is very legitimate. So what I am going to be doing, my staff is creating a matrix for me of all of the various concerns that have been raised by local families, the unintended consequences of an empty homes tax. I'll look at the various exemptions, and I had already crafted a CD1 for the Housing Committee, and so I'd probably finesse it because my questions, some of my questions were ably answered. So I'll take that off, but I'll look at any outstanding issues that I have, and then we'll see with our various proposals how we best address the issue. But I do, one area that I'm concerned about that I'm finding that what do we do with local families who've moved away and want to come home but cannot prove residency or income? I'm worried about them as a matter of fairness, that they should be able to come back to that house. And if they don't want to rent that home, which is the circumstance for some of my constituents, then they should not be able to, because they do come back, but they don't meet the 6-month threshold. And they have a lot of things in the house from the family that they don't want to be able to rent, and then they worry about renters, devaluing the house if they don't take care of it. But again, I appreciate all that you guys are doing, and as we move forward on this, then I'm going to be prepared for a discussion during committee for action.
Thank you very much. And yes, thank you for your initial proposal, and looking forward to what you have further for the next committee. Council Chair Waters, did I see a hand? I don't know. I thought I saw. No, okay. Sorry. I think I'm seeing hands go up. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Thank you. Sorry I had to step out for a brief other meeting. Did we cover the 8-3 tax revenues section yet? Okay, I have comments for that. Okay. So let me know when the appropriate time would be.
Absolutely, will do. Tax revenues. No. Exemptions. Anything on exemptions, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam? Okay. All right. Let's see here. Sorry. Next, I have questions for Budget Director. Hi, Director Kawano. First off, in your experience and with how would BFS feel if property owners with the homeowner exemption who only have a single residential property, that they just be exempt from the annual reporting requirements since they've been already reporting? I mean, since they already have that exemption.
Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. Thank you, Budget Chair. Good question. I'm going to try to rephrase it so I understand it better. Are you asking me if a homeowner has a homeowner's exemption, that homeowner would not have to declare that they have the homeowner's exemption to be exempt from the empty homes tax? Is that the question?
Yes, I would like to first off appoint Council Chair Waters to the Committee on Budget. Yes.
I think it would be helpful, and for homeowners that have the homeowner's exemption, it would be helpful for them to knowing also being aware of the fact that people have status changes, right, throughout the year. You know, something could happen within the family that results in a status change. They're supposed to report that to real property assessment. But I think in general, it would be helpful, yes.
Okay. In addition to having to look at all the properties as a whole, all residential, even residential A properties as a whole, I think the burden also is with the property owners. So if they had that burden off of them since they have their homeowners exemption, I think it would just work out better.
Yeah, that's about 155,000 parcels. Yep.
Yeah. My next question is, are there any circumstances under, are there any other circumstances where properties that are not classified as residential that may be subject to the empty home tax? Or do you believe that the language right now is pretty definitive to the properties within the residential and residential A classifications?
So for real property taxes, we have different classes. If the question is if, based on highest and best use, a property is properly classified, let's say, you know, in bed and breakfast, TVU, hotel resort, if legally and properly classified in those classes, am I comfortable that they're not, you know, they're not deemed to be residential and that's subject to the requirements of the empty homes tax?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think if the properties are appropriately classified in accordance with law in other classes, I believe, yeah, that's fair. That,
okay.
You know, they're not residential.
Okay, understood. And would you then be able to explain the residential dedication process and what criteria must be met for a property to qualify for that residential dedication?
So if you have a home, let's say in ag land, and a portion of it is used for, or it's used for residential purposes, the landowner claims for dedication to residential use instead of ag use. Hypothetically, if we approve it, you know, real property assessment approves it in accordance with ordinance, it would be deemed to be residential, you know, based on the approved dedication during the period that the dedication is active. That homeowner would then be able to apply for the homeowner's exemption, in my mind, and have that in place as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and I think that's all the questions I have because I'm trying to look for the rest of my questions. But is there anyone else who has questions for BFS? Okay, Councilmember Say.
So, Director Aquano, a very simple, direct question to you. Have the 15 exemptions exacerbated the compliance issue?
The compliance issue will be a challenge.
Yeah, and so, thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. And back to my dedication question, I know that we have heard from homes that are dedicated to residential, but are in resort areas. How does that residential dedication work and be impacted by?
It would be the same as well. So if you have a unit in a hotel or resort, you use the unit as your primary residence, and you believe that you qualify for a possible dedication, you can file the claim. I believe it's by September 1st of each year with real property assessment. They'll review it, and if the dedication is approved, the class will be changed to residential, and then at that point in time, you can apply for a homeowner's exemption.
Okay, thank you very much. My next question was brought up by testimony about how the empty homes tax and its exemptions will then be treated upon the sale of the home, and if the tax will be prorated, and if the new owner would be impacted if the sale occurs after the deadline for filing a declaration.
That question is difficult to answer because it really depends on information that's shared through the broker, if one is used, with the buyer and seller, and what they negotiate in terms of the purchase. So if the subject property is subject to empty homes tax, you would hope that buyer and seller communicate and they negotiate what they're going to do about the tax and what the status of the property is going to be going forward. The seller is going to have to figure that out. And you would think that if they communicate openly and, it's a fair arm's length transaction, they'll have those discussions and figure out, as you pointed out, the prorations and things like that.
Thank you. Thank you, Director. Members, any questions for the Budget Director? Thank you. Okay, thank you. Oh, anyone? Exemptions, yes. We're almost, it's a second round of questions or discussion, and then I'm going to move on to administrative processes. But any questions for the Budget Director for exemptions? Council Vice Chair Kia Aina, followed by Council Chair Waters.
Budget Director, I know this has come up in the testimony, and in the Housing Committee, I had proposed modification in the exemptions to read the dwelling unit is physically occupied by an owner, renter, or other permitted occupant of the property for an aggregate total of 6 months or more in the tax year, as opposed to the dwelling unit is the principal residence. And I know I've heard a lot today, but I have found that a lot of my constituents who are local families fall in that category that I described, that they're unable to say it's their principal residence, right? But that is their home. And I guess I wanted to know what are your thoughts on that? Because if the objective is to not just make sure that people were in homes 6 months or more, and then the others would sell or rent it and generate revenue, I just don't understand why there's opposition to my proposal. I want to know your thoughts on that.
I got to be honest with you. I'm sorry, Vice Chair. So the proposal is do away with the principal residence requirement and just have some kind of occupancy period.
Physically occupied.
Physical occupancy period.
And I had broad parameters.
Yes. I think it has to be, if we do that, a physical occupancy period would have to be specific so it can be enforced, can't be vague. I'll just throw some of my random thoughts out. I am concerned that if we keep adding exemptions, we're going to shrink the actual base. I just had discussions with Deputy Director and our Real Property Tax Assessment Administrator that's here. If you keep adding exemptions and you reduce the base that'll be subject to empty homes tax, we're already working with a number we don't know. And if the base gets too small, what could be at risk is the feasibility of the program, especially off getting it launched, because we're starting at a lower tax rate, right? We're starting at 1%. We're going to go to 2%, and we don't want to be in a place where the program has to be heavily subsidized using general funds. So that's a concern on the downside.
Thank you.
Yeah.
For me, that's an implementation challenge. For me, paramount to my concerns is the impact on local families, period, whether they reside here or are residing in the continent because of work, or they were going to school and still reside there but have every intent to come home. That's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any other comments? Sorry, excuse me. Council Chair Waters.
Thank you. I'll save my comments for discussion at the end. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. If there's no further comments on exemptions, I would like to now move on to the administrative processes that are involved for the tax. So moving forward, hold on one moment. In the current bill, it states that proof of principal place of residence of the owner, tenant, or other occupant for at least 6 months in the tax year, including vehicle registration, government-issued personnel identification, driver's license, utilities records, and mailing address used for personal bank and credit accounts, or a current record of a real property tax homeowner exemption issued by the city's Department of Budget and Fiscal Services Real Property Assessment Division. And first off, that's just basically what are shown for to begin the administrative processes. I know that what was brought up by testimony is about the costs impacted to the city administration. I do have to say, like I mentioned in the beginning, that we've been, since 2021, I think actually a majority of us have seen that the request or the constraints of the current softwares and staffing that BFS especially has for what they are dealing with needs to be supported and increased. And so, like I mentioned earlier, it wouldn't be just because of this bill. It's because we have to increase the support for our budget and fiscal services. So I wanted to say that before I moved on to talking about the administrative processes, whether it be what the requirements of what is shown here, as well as through, I guess, other questions that we could have for BFS. Does anyone have anything that you would like to ask? I can ask questions for the meantime. All right, okay. This question is to BFS. Thank you, Director Kwan. I think you got to sit up closer maybe. So as you heard throughout our discussion, and you've been aware, as I'm sure, through the prior hearings, that there has been proposals for either the supplemental tax as well as the now proposed, not officially proposed, but proposed residential E for a tax class. I know that I mentioned that maybe hopefully it doesn't have to add another division like a possible supplemental tax would, but if adding a tax class could help you not, I guess, need too much of an increase for your software, if you could kind of expound on what is possibly needed for you.
So, I'm sorry, Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. So currently, we have the same tax platform or software and services as the other counties for real property tax purposes. As you all know, we have, in terms of data that we have to take in and process and clean and all of that good stuff. We have way more, in terms of TMK information.
Sorry, Director Kawano, I would like to appoint Council Chair Waters to the Committee on Budget. Please continue.
Oh, okay. So we have a lot of data that's processed, and my understanding is that the system is strained right now. So it takes a long time to do runs, to do calculations. It takes hours to do reports. So my concern right now would be that I'm not sure if the system has the capacity to add, another class from a processing standpoint. So we may have to acquire a new system. I may be going out of bounds, but my other concern is that we're still going to have enforcement issues, even if we, eliminate the additional tax and create a new class, because there's still going to be filtering to ensure that we have, the proper classification of a home or parcel as an empty home. And and as a result, charged a larger tax. The other issue that comes up is that when you create a new class and you eliminate the additional tax, the rate for that class will probably have to be much higher than we anticipate to cover not only the revenue target that we are striving for, but the fact is we're going to have to cover the administrative costs of the program as well. If we have some of those exemptions, 15, we may not have all 15 at the very end, but let's say we have about 15. So we're still going to have to go through the process of evaluating, auditing, and where necessary, examining, enforcing the declarations that look false, that require work. So there's all of that we have to do. So currently, I still see the fact that we're going to have to build, if it's decided that we keep it under BFS, a new division to properly administer the tax, whether we create a new class or we go with the additional tax approach as reflected in the CD1.
Thank you for your response. I do have more questions, but I think it would be more for the reporting side, so I'll keep that. I'll keep that for then. But does anyone else have any? Okay, Council Chair Waters.
Thank you, Director. We really do want to reduce the paperwork and burden on taxpayers and your department, but it's safe to say that dwellings with a homeowner's exemption will automatically be considered as occupied and no additional filing will be necessary, right?
Yes.
I mean, so
that will help.
We just take that off the table. So those folks, you don't have to worry about them. In addition, the empty homes tax will only apply to properties that are zoned residential or residential A. No other property classes will be impacted by the empty home tax, right?
It really depends, because we're
not talking about commercial, we're not talking about agricultural, we're just talking about residential.
Yeah, but within residential, with all due respect, Chair, you have those single-family homes, you have the apartment units, condo units that are under $1 million. So you have that, and there are a lot that have to be looked at. So
I mean, I think you kind of estimated that perhaps at the top end, just doing the rough numbers, right? If you have 285,000 residential properties, minus all the ones that have a homeowner's exemption. Boom,
155,000.
155,000. I mean, so you're weeding it down, right? So, I mean, plus, if you are in the TVU class or hotel class, you don't have to consider them either.
But the hotel class is already out.
Yeah, it's already out.
Out of the 285 that we started with.
Right, okay.
And TVU and B&B are really small. We're talking a few thousand parcels, that's all.
Right.
So there's still that large balance that we're going to have to filter through. Yeah.
Right. But also, my hope is that we're meeting today at 3 o'clock, which is great, with the folks doing the study. But my hope is that the folks doing that study for Budget and Fiscal Services can help us develop the enforcement and how to enforce this and the budget needed to enforce. That's my hope that this study is going to do.
Yeah, that's my hope as well.
Okay.
Yes.
Terrific. Thank you.
Thank you. And Director Quano, to add to Council Chair Waters, that means to also indicate the, you said resources, right, Council Chair? Okay, never mind. He said it all. Thank you. Is there anything else for administrative processes? Okay, seeing none, I would like to move forward to reporting requirements. Members, so the reporting requirements are the same in the both versions of the bill. I do have a question, thank you. As it relates to, I actually asked Director Quano, sorry, Thank you.
Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services.
Thank you. Would it be easier to implement the empty homes tax or the own tax class if the taxpayers declare whether they were subject to one of the proposed exemptions after the tax year has passed rather than in advance, since most of the exemptions pertain to situations that may not be foreseen throughout a tax year or the coming fiscal year?
In terms of, okay, so I don't know how you do that. Currently, CD1 is based on status, historical status. So you're looking at a period of time in the past, right? And based on that, there's a declaration that's going to be done. And let's say we take out homeowners, those with homeowners exemptions that don't have to do it. But the declarations are based on historical status data. So I don't know how you would base it on current, because you need some kind of cutoff, in terms of start and end period. And then, there has to be a hard date by which the declaration has to be filed. And then the assessments happen, for all residential properties. And then depending on where a property stands with regard to the empty home liability, whether we have an additional tax or a new class, the way I see it now, there's still a lot of work that has to be done.
Okay, actually, that was going to be my next question, Director, that whether if it is a supplemental tax or adding a new tax class, would it be, what would be more effective to establish with the system and for also reporting, requesting for reporting?
If our system had more capacity, it probably would be easier to add a new class, system-wise, but that's just one variable, right? But as I said earlier, our system is straining right now. It's essentially not very stable, and our concern is that if we add too much more to it, it could lock, meaning that it's going to stop processing, and we're going to have other problems with regard to the standard, the regular real property tax program. So I think we're hoping that our consultant helps us to assess whether or not, if we go with a new class, we're going to need either to upgrade what we have or look at a new system overall.
Okay, thank you. And I know that the reporting deadline is pretty much the same as, whether you're doing a homeowner exemption or other types of exemptions. But do you have any other comments relating to the reporting requirements as it relates to this?
As of right now, I don't have any other comments.
Okay, thank you very much. Opening up to the members, thank you for allowing me to go first. Members, any questions, comments, or any questions even for testifiers for reporting requirements? That is pretty much the same as what we deal with now. Okay, seeing none, thank you, Director Kawano. Stay in the front first, please. Stay in the front. Thank you. Next, we will move on to penalties for noncompliance. Penalties for noncompliance. The CD1 did not make any further amendments from the original bill that I just closed. But while I try to get back up, does anyone have comments on the penalties for noncompliance? I can try to read it if anyone wants me to. But basically, notwithstanding any provision to the contrary, a dwelling unit is considered to be an empty home and it's subject to the empty homes tax, basically. And there's all those exemptions that we have currently. So Okay. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Thank you, Chair. I actually do have a question with regard to the penalties. This is in 8.8C for the director. It lays out foreclosure as an option. Right now, foreclosure is also an option for people that aren't paying their existing property taxes. To what extent does the city ever actually initiate foreclosure proceedings and get them to their conclusion?
Thank you, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam. Good question. When I started, we actually took a break because of COVID, so we were not going through the foreclosure process. But for the last few years, we've done it annually. And there's an entire process that's documented in ordinance. We don't really start the foreclosure process until perhaps the third year. There are a number of notices that have to be provided, public notices. We have a foreclosure collections team that work with all of the taxpayers. So what's very interesting is when our first listing of properties that could be potentially foreclosed goes out, we could have 100 homes. But through the diligent work of the Treasury foreclosure team, typically the foreclosure process ends with perhaps just a few properties. I think this year there were just 3 that were actually foreclosed. And but it's a process that happens annually currently.
And then to follow up, does the foreclosure process include putting a lien on the property as well, or is that a separate process?
What I've learned from Treasury is that as soon as the invoice goes out, the lien is already on your property.
So that would imply that the foreclosure language in the bill as it stands right now is sufficient and we don't need additional lien language because it's an inherent part of the process.
Very good question, Councilmember. I think once we get to the final bill, I'm going to rely on Corporation Counsel to take a look at whether or not we have any, whether there's any exposure in terms of whether the paramount lien would apply to any component of the tax or additions to the tax by penalty and so on and so forth.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Great questions. Members, are there any other questions or does anyone have any points to make or comments for discussion on the reporting requirements? Okay, thank you very much. Moving forward, we are moving wait, I don't know where we are. Yeah, I got it. Hold on. Allocation of tax revenue generated from the empty homes tax. I know, so that's tax revenue, and I would like to go to Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Thank you, Chair. I know that we've received a communication from Corporation Counsel with some discussion of whether we can allocate these funds into the Affordable Housing Fund established under Charter. I still am not fully convinced that that's the case. However, I do note that we have 2 additional funds that are already in ordinance in 645. It's the Rental Assistance Fund, and 646, the Housing Development Special Fund, which don't have these purported limitations on us putting money in there. And so I'll be submitting a CD1 or CD2, I guess, proposing that instead of the Affordable Housing Fund, that we consider putting the monies into the Housing Development Special Fund. It targets 30 to 80% AMI. It has sort of a similar use. It hasn't been used in a while, and I'm hoping to work with BFS to explore why that's the case. But to the extent that it prohibits, that Corporation Counsel's opinion seems to prohibit us from utilizing the Affordable Housing Fund for this goal, perhaps there's another fund without these restrictions. And so I'd like to explore that as the bill moves forward.
Thank you. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam, you mentioned the fund that you were going to propose it into. You said something interesting that it hasn't been used in a while.
Correct. My research sort of has indicated that in the Housing Development Special Fund, there's only a few million, maybe several $million, somewhere between 6 and 7 million. In the Rental Assistance Fund, it's about 1.6 million. That seems to be fairly steady. That seems to have been fairly steady for a number of years. And so I'm sure that these funds were created for some purpose, perhaps in the 90s when the city was a little bit more aggressive in creating housing. But at this point, we are in a crisis. This framework already exists. And then, perhaps in a future budget committee hearing, or perhaps in the housing committee, or wherever it may be appropriate, we might want to look at these funds and how they're utilized.
Well, thank you for bringing that up. I'm concerned about that fund especially, and its lack of utilization. I do have to say, just in response, I didn't know where you were going with what you were talking about with the opinion and the allocations. I still would like, for me, to see that it go to the general fund, but that's just for me. That's why I wanted to have this hearing, to see where the council is. But I just wanted to state that I know that we all kind of land in different places for this, which is why we had this last on the discussion. So, sorry, Council Vice, sorry. Do you have a response? Sorry.
Oh, yeah, sorry, just to clarify where I'm at, and I'm proposing this because I do think it's important that some degree of this be dedicated to affordable housing and/or homelessness, rather than just sort of going to the general fund and leaving it up to us or our successors to figure it out.
Understood. Thank you very much. Council Vice Chair Kiaina.
Thank you, Chair. As I have expressed earlier, as well as in a proposed CD1 at the last housing hearing, I share your concerns about the allocation of funds. I also support the funds to go to the general fund, but if the consensus by most of the members is that a certain allocation do go for affordable housing or homelessness, I would be open to a new mechanism with the greatest parameters for flexibility for not just the Director of Housing in the Mayor's office, but all of the city, to be able to know where the needs are and to have the greatest flexibility to be able to help those in need, as opposed to be constrained by current mechanisms. I also just would like to reiterate that for now, I don't believe that funding has been a problem, and we lost an opportunity to increase funding for the Affordable Housing Fund in 2022 through a charter amendment. And so for those who feel strongly, I urge that they continue to work with us on longer-term solutions, not just this solution. And but anyway, so if I had to, my preference number one is no diversion. Second, if it had to be, I am open to something that is newly created, maybe a small percentage of the money, and that that mechanism has to have the greatest flexibility for affordable housing or homelessness. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you. As you were bringing that up, because for affordable housing and well, maybe I'll reserve my comments because I think I'd like Councilmember Say to say something first before he Helis.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to mention, if we're going to earmark, my personal thoughts right now, let's earmark some of it for sewer.
Yeah, you can't have homes if you have no sewer, huh? Okay, well, I would like to also appoint, thank you very much, Councilmember Say. I would like to appoint Council Chair Waters to the Committee on Budget. Council Vice Chair Kiaina, you brought up really great points that spurred some thought in my head. As you know, you and I are on the same, following the same wavelength for the allocations part, but it did bring me thought because we had discussions about what's called the down payment program, because the purpose is for home ownership, right? And so if we have these affordable homes, but we don't, and they then also end up empty. How can we also incentivize people to purchase those homes as well? Council Vice Chair?
Yes, I fully agree with you, and I'm also concerned that there are ample funding mechanisms for lower AMI. My concern is a great majority of the people who are leaving Hawaii are higher AMI, and there's almost no opportunities for them. So how are we, as a city council in a city, how are we going to be targeting those individuals? So again, I appreciate the intent of this resolution, this bill, but we need to be very mindful of our targeted beneficiaries. Our targeted beneficiaries are the people who are leaving Oahu. And many of those who are leaving are in the higher AMI. So that's when I talk about greatest flexibility. I want the greatest flexibility of this dedicated source of funding to be able to help those individuals as well, whether it be down payment assistance or anything else.
Okay, thank you. Do you have anything to add, Council Chair Waters, for allocations? Do you feel a specific way, or do you want more time to?
No, I think we need to put at least a portion of this towards homelessness and affordable housing. But I'm open to being as flexible as possible. But I think it's important to dedicate some of that money towards affordable housing.
Okay, thank you. That helps me see where the council is. I would like to appoint council. Oh, wait, hold on. I can't say until you leave as well. Can you exit, please? Thank you. Oh, sorry. Not in a bad way, but okay, sorry. I would like to appoint Councilmember Dos Santos Tam to the Committee on Budget. Almost done. Okay, so what was I saying? I forgot what I was saying. For the allocations, I have been able to see through the different committee hearings, as well as our discussion today, different committee hearings plus the council, plus today, where a majority of the council is, and I'm glad that we have a better sense of this, and hopefully when members or myself are pushing forward the next versions of this bill, that it includes the allocations that to affordable housing and homelessness that majority of the council members have shared that they would like to see. So that's where it has fallen throughout these discussions. Are there any other discussions on allocations to the from revenue generated from the empty homes tax? Any discussion? Okay. Well, that does bring us to, does anyone have any questions for BFS relating to the allocation, or no? Okay. All right, I don't either. Okay, so with that, that was our last topic for the bill, and we went through the different sections of the bill. As you all can see, because we all can't talk to each other fully, this has helped me understand where, once again, the different, where majority of the council members stand. Of course, it does differ from my certain standpoints on the bill, but I, as a chair, would move forward to support where a majority of the council members are, and look forward to all your different proposals as we move forward. With that, there being no further business, this Committee on Budget is adjourned.